Welcome, 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 everyone, to Two Guys in Hockey Talk, Season 6, Episode 38 of our series. Evan, we are almost at the finish line. We've got the Stanley Cup Final, and we are jam-packed, once again, with a fun show with a lot of facts, a lot of speculation, and your Revs Top 15. But before we get to that, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing really good. You'll see, really plain background, just like you. You're a little yellow, I'm a little white, and I'm a little red. And that is because I am in Flames territory tonight while you're in where?
I am in Wrocław, Poland, which is a little bit south, close to Krakow, a little bit more south, and just visiting some family here and friends. It's been wonderful. It's been cool. It is midnight here, so it is a little bit later. So I am being a little softer because a lot of my family is asleep, but I stayed up to talk all things hockey. Now, how are things on your end in Cowtown? I know there's some news there. Anything happening in the world of Sea of Red?
Well, I will tell you this right now. The Stanley Cup fever is not even here. You would think it's football season. Wait, it is football season in Calgary. I see no flags. I see no people screaming. I see no shirts, but I don't see flame shirts either. And I'm taking a chance tonight. We are going to test, Pilot. I have left my Oilers flag up in my truck on purpose tonight. I'm going to see if they rip it off or if they smash my windows or break my truck. And then we'll truly have a true test of what fans are like in competing cities. And that is for those that are not familiar, following us here, Two Guys in Hockey Talk. So you know how there's always rivalry. Well, in the province of Alberta, that's a state for those that are in places where there's states in Western Canada. There's the Calgary Flames and the Edmonton Oilers. They're about 3.5 hours apart. And I am in the southern area where the Flames did not make the playoffs and the Oilers are moving on to game 4. But hey, before we get to that, and thank you, Pawel, for coming on at midnight, man, and sacrificing your sleep because, you know, your kids could start screaming at any time in the middle of the night and you're being woken up again.
I think I prefer their screams over the screams that you give me for all the stuff that I get wrong about hockey news. But I agree, it can be a little chaotic. So if I am withdrawn for a moment, it is because I'm taking care of my little ones. But speaking of the Calgary Flames, Evan, he got quite a bit of love, but he did not end up winning the Calder. It went out in the NHL awards to Lane Hudson of the Montreal Canadiens. Had a heck of a season. Will finish second in voting, which I think if they made the playoffs, that could have given them the push to win. It's very hard. We remember when Stuart Skinner done it and was nominated, didn't win. But you also have Macklin Celebrini, the first overall pick for the San Jose Sharks. He comes in. He has a very impactful season. Him and Will Smith really hit it off. And with Tyler Toffoli on that line, really just clicking and buzzing. Of course, he finished at the bottom. They're hoping to pick high. You're going to talk about your Revs Top 15 a little bit later. But I like the award being going to Lane Hudson. I think he did deserve it with the way he was playing. He was very effective. And Montreal fans, you should be very excited because beyond him, you still got Ivan Devanov coming. And that's going to be a 1-2 punch, as we've talked about before on the show. But your thoughts on Lane Hudson winning the Calder?
I understand it. I've actually, so if you guys do follow us, as we were talking about earlier, if you follow Pawel at hockey_2 or me at REV, I am in it right now with some people and having some conversations. Do I irritate people? I'm sure I irritate you guys. Just know it's all in the fun of hockey and trying to psych each other out. But never do I take myself so seriously. I will laugh at myself and I will also admit when I'm wrong. But with Hudson, I do think he's the shiny new thing because he's a Canadian. He had almost no goals, almost all assists. I think that's fabulous. Points are points. And they talk about, he helped them get to the playoffs. I think that's pretty unfair because they have a really good team. I get it. He was in on a lot of points, but that means other people's playing time. So it's not that simple because then let's look at all the points. Without Macklin Celebrini, well, how many less points would they have had? How many less points would Philadelphia had without even someone like Matt Mishkov? Wolf, runner-up. Like, hang on, runner-up? He didn't make the playoffs. So this is my thing, Pavel. If you make the playoffs, it makes it more special. Was it lit? It's like the Hart Trophy. Anyway, that's not a rant, but it's a rant. I still think Macklin Celebrini was the true 200-foot player. Wait till Hudson gets exposed next year. I think he's the shiny new toy, and he is a Canadian American, but in a Canadian city with the Canadians. So I'm okay that he won it, but don't have the same expectation next year. Wait for a drop, fans, because everyone knows what he brings now, and they will coach around it. That's my thought.
I agree, but I think what this award really shows us for hockey fans and for fans all around of the game is that there's so much young, exciting talent in the league, and I'm just excited to see where this goes in the next 5 years. What will Macklin Celebrini's career look like? We know Bedard, he's had a bit of a down year, but he's going to be electric when he goes on. You look at Lane Hudson and what Montreal is going to be able to do next year and be able to compete a little bit more effectively, right? And so you really get to see something. But who I wanted to talk about next is also someone who won in 2019, 2020, the Calder, and that's Cale Makar. And he now comes away with his second Norris Trophy. And I wanted to get your thoughts about him winning the second time, because he is an all-around great defenseman. But unfortunately, the team is out in the first round. He did win a Conn Smythe and a Stanley Cup. He's still effective. He does gain a lot of points with that dynamic duo that he shares with Nathan McKinnon. And Jonathan Toews being his partner has really helped him, given that Jonathan Toews is a bit more, Toes, or however you pronounce it, in terms of defenses.
Devon. I was like, Jonathan.
Devon Toews. See, I'm blurring already.
What happens when it's morning time already and you haven't got
morning time already? We're going to get to Jonathan Toews Devon Toews. And so he's playing with him. So, yes, see, this is what happens when you've been up for a little bit longer.
You are like hockey drunk tonight, man.
Yeah. But you think to yourself, like, with all the candidates that could have won potentially, including Quinn Hughes and Zach Werenski, who I would say had my vote, what are your thoughts on Cale Makar winning?
I was 100% behind this. Sorry, I'm just responding, sending something out there. I was 100% behind this. I felt like he was still the lead all the way through. I feel like Quinn Hughes was probably fairly low considering the bad year that they had. I know he was dealing with some injury and stuff around that. To me, Quinn Hughes is always the top three. I believe Hedman is the top three, and I always believe that Makar is a top two. So with this, you and I have had discussions that Makar has the possibility, he's already in there in some statistical numbers, of literally having a career like Bobby Orr. His ability, he shocked me. I knew he was a good player, but there's no way at his size I thought that he would be able to dominate like he dominates. And I don't think it's fair that a lot of people actually hold it against them that he's played with, say, I'll just use, say, previously at least, McKinnon and Rantanen, right? It's just like, or Neckes now, but Nietzsche, sorry. You would have corrected me if I didn't change that. So one of the things that I think is that it's held against you, like Draisaitl playing without McDavid, right? It's just, they play together. No, they don't always play together. It's like saying that Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, they change. And because you guys watch it for seconds, you're not getting it right. Because here's the thing. How come nobody else with McKinnon and Rantanen before could score like that? No one could produce like that. No one could quarterback like that. It's like that with Bouchard as well. It's like that to me. Victor Hedman doesn't. I feel like Victor Hedman usually is a top two in the league, and I feel like he doesn't get his due. Hey Nancy, how you doing? Okay, who else we got? Or what was? Okay,
we'll get to that. I just want to quickly add to your comment there, but because we get to the next award here, is you got to be looking at teams like New Jersey, Philadelphia, Dallas, who drafted ahead of that draft in 2017, and they picked, and I get it, Nick O'Keefe, he's had a really solid career with New Jersey. Nolan Patrick, unfortunately, his career never panned out what it was, even at the end in Vegas. Miro Heiskanen, I'm sure Dallas is very happy, but all these teams are probably kicking themselves thinking, we could have had this kid. We could have had Cale Makar, right? So you really think about the impact that he's had. So it's interesting to see because, you do what you can. Now, speaking of Cale Makar, he also won.
Before we move to Cale Makar, make sure you come back to me.
For sure. No, all I was going to say is that before we move on from the Colorado Avalanche, I did want to note that they did re-sign Nelson, Brock Nelson, to a 3-year deal at $7.5 million AAV. So it looks like they're keeping him around, given that they gave up so much for him. So good on Colorado. They're going to have to regroup. I know they're going to be looking at potentially moving Charlie Coyle out as their second-line center. Maybe he plays third line somewhere. Definitely second-line centers are going to be a hot commodity, including looking at Sam Bennett for the Florida Panthers. But you really get to see like some amazing talent in Colorado. It's just how do you get over the hump, and how do you go about beating a Dallas again and potentially moving on for a deep run.
Can I throw something out there? And we won't talk about right now, but later near the end of the show, let's end with this. Let's talk about where does Justin Toews end up? Because I'm starting to have some people make suggestions that they believe that there is interest within the Avalanche's organization at throwing their hat into there because Toews could be that 3C or that 4C at a cheap price coming back no matter what. And that experience and that leadership that they could add to that team. And depending on what happens with Nietzsche, right? Where he ends up and where he goes around. Can I just say, this is just my opinion. I'll talk about this in our Revs Top 15. Don't sleep on someone like James Higgins in this draft because he's small. Like he's actually 5 pounds. I had this discussion. I'll talk later around the comparison of weight and size and does he play strong or not, and for conversations I've had. But one of the things that recognizes the reason people did not take Makar is because of his size. They were worried, even though he had all this other upside. And I'm hearing this in the draft. I'm hearing it from people who are scouting. I'm hearing it from people who are kind of in the know of things. And the reasons why behind James is even some of the pro scouts. And let's face it, the pro scouts don't always get it right. So we'll come into that more later, but don't sleep on some players because they might be the next Cale Makar. So who else did we get some winning some awards here?
Well, so we had Alexander Barkov win once again the Selke, right? It's incredible because his teammate Sam Reinhard was another finalist, right? So it goes to show you the depth that the Panthers had, and we'll get into that series in just a bit. But of course, Anthony Cirelli out of the Tampa Bay Lightning, but pretty much next to Bergeron, this was always Barkov's award next to, right? So he knows how to play a great two-way game, great finish player. He knows how to shut you down. He has no points right now in the Stanley Cup final, but it doesn't matter because that's not his role. His role is to shut down the best, and that's what he's been able to do. And he's defensively so minded. He plays the 200-foot game so well, Evan, that I think young hockey players who are watching how to grow the game and how to become elite players need to watch Alexander Barkov ice tape. Gotta watch the tape.
So, you know, I have a little bit of problem with this award. And again, you guys can go follow me at hockey _2 for Pavel and at REV for me. But let me tell you why I have a little bit of a problem. We're talking a two-way forward, right? We're talking about Professional Hockey Writers Association. What do you think? There's over 100 of them. How many do you think watch live Alexander Barkov? How many do you think see him live of those writers? More than how many games?
Hard to really say because you would think that they try to watch as many games as possible.
But it's not even possible. There's 32 teams with players two-way. We already know there's going to be a bias to your area. You're going to be watching games and you're writing and the stuff that you're doing. And so I'm telling you, if you pull everybody, say all 100, there might be 1,000 views in total, right? 10 each one of the 100 would have saw him 10 times. How many times did they see people that were not even in their area? This is why people talked about that Eastern bias. That's why you do like to have the 15-16 or a 17-17 maybe in the future.
Yeah.
My problem is hockey writers should not be the ones voting on those that are two-way forwards, because it's almost impossible to see on the stat sheets. You can't see in analytics. See, they can vote based on the analytics. They can look at a lot of other things. But in a two-way game, I believe this should be an award that should be voted on by players specifically. Anyway, that's a bit of a thing for me that I don't see why writers are writing on who they think the best is. They're just kind of taking, again, I feel like this is the shiny new car right now.
I agree. And in terms of the Jack Adams Awards this year, it looks like Spencer Carberry has won again. The award, he's won it before at other levels of hockey. His family presented it as well to him, which is a very nice touch on while he was on live TV. Washington Capitals had a heck of a season. People thought they were down and out. They made some interesting trades last year, all which were home runs. And good for him, Spencer Carberry, for making that team effective, helping Ovi break the goal record, continuing to be effective, and really, at the end of the day, making the Caps pretty fast and effective. And granted, they did go out against Carolina, but they were fun to watch, and they really dialed in to what his message was. Hey, Key, great to hear from you. Hope you're doing well. So that's one of your things. Any thoughts on the Jack Adams Awards for Spencer Carberry?
Yeah, absolutely. Just a shout out to you, Key. Hey, man, go Flyers, go Flyers. Can I just say, Key, Daniel Briere keeps his information close to his hip, very close to his hip. Be ready for a major move this offseason. Be ready, Key. You're going to like it. I can't say nothing else, but I'm telling you, I think you're going to say, Evan, you're so dead on. Okay, Spencer Carberry, we talked about this. He was a shoo-in. What that team did and how they really overperformed. They went out in the playoffs, but you know what? The playoffs are a different game. The way you play the regular season and the way you play the playoffs, we've seen it. This is why there's a reason it's the best of 7. Usually the best team wins. Mm-hmm. Everything changes in the playoffs. It's not the same kind of hockey. It's funny. They got rid of fighting, right? They get rid of fighting and they say, we're protecting this. And then they allow absolute barbarian behavior in the playoffs. And sometimes they'll call it and sometimes they won't. But players will be barbarians and act childish and, just think that they're still back in, the early 20s, duking it out over a piece of land and where you put your fence. So anyway, Spencer, hey, congratulations. I think it was well-deserved. I don't think there was a question in most people's minds. It was an incredible, good idea.
100%. And for the final award that we've known and have been announced is that Sean Monahan has won the Masterton Award, and he was able to award it to Johnny Gaudreau's late partner, which was beautiful after the tragic thing that went there. Of course, how could you give it to anyone else? This was like a shoo-in for him. He surprised Meredith, and what a hell of a year for Columbus. After everything that they went through, but really they made it work. And congrats to Sean, because he came in a very difficult situation and was able to persevere. That team persevered. They went through a lot of adversity, and I'm excited to see what the Columbus Blue Jackets do next season, because I could see them potentially hearing it first here, potentially make the postseason. Just saying. Your thoughts?
Just to follow up the Key, because it is relevant to the timing. She's saying, what's a good game without a fight? That's a true Philadelphian. True Philadelphian. You need a good fight. I think Sean it was well-deserved, well-earned. I do find it funny. You said you hear about Columbus. I remember hearing that a couple different times since we've done our seasons of this. We're in our 6th season. So I think what we called each time we came back on another season, whereas now we do a full season, a full year. So this is, I think, the end of our 5th year. So we'll complete it full years of doing this show in just a few more weeks with it. But yeah, if I can say this, I do. I think it was a shoe-in for Monahan. Absolute honor, very meant something. But I will say, not sure I'm really big in all these announcements and talking to people. I don't know if you were going to hit on that, but why are these awards being mentioned and handed out by all these secretive people? What the heck is the award show in Las Vegas for anyway? Okay, I'm confused. Like, are we just going to sit there and look pretty and say, and the three candidates are, no, there's no three candidates. Are they leaving them at home now? This is silly. Like, what's up with this league?
That sounds like a borderline rant, but we're going to get to one later, so we don't want to spoil the surprise. But we still have a few more awards to get through, but we know that we're going to learn about the Vezina winner, the Ted Lindsay, and the Hart Trophy. So we'll see what happens, along with the Lady Bing, I believe. It's also a bit of a delicate time right now, and I'm not trying to get political, but I know that the draft is being considered in LA and everything, so we're just monitoring that situation right now, as is the NHL. But I know you wanted to get into a little bit of things happening around the league. Is that right?
Yes, let's do that.
So we saw the Dallas Stars get eliminated pretty harshly by the Edmonton Oilers in 5 games to 1. 4 games to 1 in 5-game series. And, you know, with the post-game comments by Pete DeBoer and everything that happened there, and now he has been let go. Now he's got a bit of an interesting trend where he's been able to get to a lot of the teams, including San Jose that he coached, and Vegas, to the 3rd round, and yet can't get over the hump. Your thoughts, as you called it, moving forward for Pete DeBoer? Will he find a job? Because I think he will, but a lot of those jobs are taken up. There's not really any more jobs left. I think, yeah, like maybe Jay Woodcroft is still left there. There's a few other guys, but really, who's open, right? Boston, I think filled it up already. So,
well, essentially, you have Jay Woodcroft's been in on I think 6 or 7. You got Mitch Love, who is like the prime cat. I call him the new John Cooper of the future. I still think that's who Pittsburgh should have took, but you know they got their man in Moose. Having said that, right now there is no jobs. I do not see him taking an assistant role. I see him sitting, taking some time, and seeing where we go from there. And then, you know, essentially, it is interesting. I feel like he wanted out. Why would you be doing that and saying those things? I mean, it's uncharacteristic for someone to just start doing that and throwing players under the bus. They could not keep a coach that even got them to that place. I don't think he's a good coach. Everyone knows. And let's just say the next job that comes available, it is like Pete will get that job if he wants that job. There's no way.
Well, you guys heard it here first. You can let us know your thoughts about Pete DeBoer and where he potentially may end up. I could potentially see Nashville make a change quickly mid-season, but who knows? Anything is possible. The other coaching hire that we wanted to talk about, and this is one of Evan's favorite teams that he likes to really preach about, is Dan Muse has been hired.
We did talk about that last week, I thought.
We did a little bit, but I wanted to just get your quick thoughts because you are a Pittsburgh fan, and there's now rumblings, Evan, about Mario Lemieux and some partners wanting to buy out a portion of Fenway Sports again to take ownership, a minority ownership. Your thoughts on that?
That the team is a mess. Like when it comes to ownership, they don't really seem to know what they're actually doing, and it makes sense. I think the idea was nice. There was a lot of in behind the scenes, and not sure what's really going on. You know what actually makes me wonder? Is there a possibility if Lemieux can get in and buy in again? Is there a possibility that Crosby could become a part owner of the Pittsburgh Penguins in the future? You know, it's a way that Mario went. Could you imagine 2 iconic figures, superstars of the game, actually moving into ownership with the same team, and never playing for another team? Like, I mean, it's quite a thing. So I'm very interested. I haven't had a lot of time to dig further into it. I think that there's something more going on behind the scenes. And I feel like Fenway wants a little. They thought they were going to be more successful and make a little bit more money, and that hasn't turned out. And now, let's just face it, they're in a rebuild. And as you mentioned last week, could you imagine Mario Lemieux, Yarmer Yager, and then moving to Sidney Crosby, and then Evgeny Malkin, and now you have potentially Gavin McKenna? Question mark. If they finish in the bottom 7, which I think they're guaranteed to do, I think they're going to be a bottom 5. In fact, I'll go on record in saying the Penguins, the Sharks, and the Blackhawks will be in the bottom 5 for sure.
Well, you heard it here first from Evan. That's quite the prediction here. And the other team I wanted to kind of quickly chat upon for head coaching jobs is Lane Lambert has been hired on by the Seattle Kraken. I gotta tell you, Evan, this was a head crasher for me. I don't know what Seattle's doing. Like, is this the right hire? I mean, maybe Pete DeBoer would have been a better fit here because I like Lane Lambert, but I don't think he's a good head coach. He tried with the Islanders. It did not pan out. He was a good assistant in Toronto. Got some experience with Craig Berube, right? Yeah. But really, your thoughts on what's going on with Seattle, because I know they want to make a splash. I know they want to be competitive, but I don't know if they have the personnel in order to be effective. Go ahead. You seem to be
it's just funny because you're 8 hours ahead of me, but I feel you're a week behind. So we did talk about that last week on the show.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, it's okay, dude, because we didn't really take a lot of time. You didn't get to talk about Lane Lambert. I went on and talked about how that whole organization is a mess. And remember, they should bring Hunter in to take it over instead of Jason Botterill. I do not like what France has done. I did not like the expansion draft. Veneers, okay, made sense, right? Definitely made sense. Some of his trades, he made a couple good ones, but I just kind of feel like he's been a bottom team and he's not done anything. The only thing that makes sense to me is Jessica Campbell being the coach. And I did mention that I think next year. And the reason I know is because on my travel down here, I wanted to check in last week's show. So I knew that we talked about it. That's why I'm laughing that Pavel is on off-season duty. He's still following, but he still didn't feel we talked enough about it. So, but anyway, yeah, I think it's a mess. I think the Kraken will be in the bottom 5, by the way. Let's add the 14. They will be in there for Gavin McKenna.
I am already in golf season mode, so this is why my brain is off tonight. But I believe that we can talk about a little bit of your Calgary Flames and how they have re-signed Adam Klapka for 2 years, 1.25 AAV. Your quick thoughts on the deal?
Did you say your Calgary Flames?
Yeah, because you're in Calgary right now.
oh, okay. It is funny because you know how we have jerseys behind us sometimes. And then people are like, oh, you like the Toronto Maple Leafs. Oh, you're a Boston Bruins fan. Oh, you're a Florida guy. And, there's Kyle talking about the Boston Bruins. Now, he is a Bruins fan. But, yeah, because people see we're in places or they hear us doing stuff, they automatically assume we are fans. We are fans of the game of hockey, and that's every level, every league. Obviously, the NHL is the upper echelon of the world and the best league in the world and the hardest trophy to win. But having said that, Klappa, just another player for me. I don't know if Flame fans will be overly excited. I think Flame fans right now, and from the discussions that I'm hearing from a lot of Flame fans, they're more excited to see what Dustin Wolf will do in his return year after up to the Calder, which is an incredible honor. And can I just say this? Dustin Wolf finished, I think it was 9.13. Someone can correct me. And Stuart Skinner got the Calder runner-up at 9.14 or something like that. It was like one or two, same age. I mean, it was kind of eerie, similar. And I probably said that wrong right now because I'm running on a little bit of sleep. Didn't get a lot of sleep last night. But anyway, and they are super pumped, not just to see him, but Zane Parrott start his career in Calgary. I know he got into a couple games at the end of the year, but they're super pumped right now in Calgary. They feel they have their Evan Bouchard per se. Maybe they don't like Evan Bouchard, but they're offensive defensemen. But they better get ready because he will make a lot of Evan Bouchard mistakes and will not play that puck well and will be out of position often. That will be a common thing.
For sure. And just a quick few things to report on that's been happening is that TJ Oshie of the Washington Capitals, predominantly, has retired at the age of 38. You know, he had some back issues this year, but he was a first round pick, number 24 in 2005, which feels like a lifetime ago. And, you know, he played over 1,000 games, had 695 points. You know, he played with St. Louis as well. Kudos to him, wishing him all the best because he had a heck of a career, you know, and he did everything he was able to do. Just his body couldn't keep up with it by the end. We wish him all the best in the thing. I know the Senators provided a bit of a sneak peek at their new red alternative jersey. It was interesting looking, although the feed seemed a little bit off from the photos that I saw online. You guys, Ottawa fans, you can let us know what you think. And finally, there's been a lot of reporting, though nothing substantial yet, by Frank Sarabelli, is that it looks like Chris Kreider is going to the Anaheim Ducks with nothing potentially being retained. There's still a little bit more because I think Anaheim was on his no trade list, but it'll be interesting to see what happens there if that really transpires, that trade, which will be interesting because I don't know what the Ducks are doing there with Pat Verbeek taking on an older player who's a little bit more injury prone and great Ranger, but I think you could have traded him a while back and gotten a little bit more. And I believe one of the pieces that wants to be taken by the New York Rangers is a center by the name of Carey Terrence. So we'll see if that transpires. Any quick thoughts on this, Evan?
Yeah, so I've been corresponding with a few people because it just doesn't make sense what they were doing. And I know I've had some conversation on my live tweeting or posting, as it's called X now. I'm not tweeting on Twitter, I like to say. But if I can just say, I'm perplexed like you are, but a lot of people believe Verbeek is this connection. He likes his veterans. He wants to make the playoffs. They've been sitting on the bottom too long. Frankly, I wouldn't do it if I was him. This is the last year of some great players coming through, and I would rather take my chances on that bottom five and just let my guys figure. If they figure it out like Calgary did, that's great. But why bring in? I mean, he's great, but you and I know he's going at the deadline. They're not keeping him there. Going at the deadline to the team that's a contender, and they'll eat some of that cap. And I think it's just an asset management thing. If all of a sudden they can do really well, but even if they do, they're going to be a wild card team if they could all of a sudden, and they don't have a superstar player really there yet. You know.
Well, and what happens with Trevor Zegras? Does he stay or does he go? Does he finally?
Yeah, I think he should. I do. That there was talk. Yeah. Just where are you going to move him to, right? I know there was a lot of talk around Montreal, but we had talked about Montreal has a lot of small players. Do they want to keep adding? They want to get some guys in between. They have a few big guys, but they need probably more up front. You know, and Montreal. You notice Montreal's in all the rumors now, like Toronto used to be. Like they're winning. You get in there because you win. Edmonton wasn't in there for years, and they said, well, it's because they're a Canadian team, and they're also in the north, and it's cold, and it's this. It's like, no, it's because they're not winning. They're winning, and it changes. Calgary, I guarantee, give them a couple of years, and they start winning. People are going to want to go there. They got the new arena. Everything gets set up. I think that looking at them getting players again.
100%. And to get to the meat of the things, we're going to now get in to the Stanley Cup Final. It's been a ring-a-ding-dandy, as you like to say, Evan, and there's been a lot of action, a lot of highs and lows, a lot of old-school 80s brawls, a lot of penalty minutes, fourth most ever in a Stanley Cup Final. It's been tight game after tight game until finally a lopsided game. I am hearing from both fans, oh, woe is me for both sides. Each team is dirty. Each team is wrong. This bad, no one shows up. I am hearing left, right, and center. It is quite entertaining to hear the people who aren't fans of either club or vice versa that are huge fans and just the reception that is happening. I wanted to get your thoughts, A, on the series, B, what you thought of the last game, and really what the Oilers need to do to stay competitive in Game 4 tomorrow night.
It's interesting. You guys remember LA, that early series game with Edmonton? They did that same thing in the LA game, and they started going crazy on the team. They started dropping and cheating and doing whatever, stuff that was really questionable. I don't like what I saw, but I don't like what I see from Florida. Right now, it's like it's a war. And that's why I said the playoffs are different, and the Stanley Cup final is even different. You might as well allow them to start throwing fists because everything else you're doing is hurting people badly. And so, okay.
100%. It'll be interesting. So before we
Yeah.
get to the next little quick about this game, I did want to shout out a super fan and local guest of the show, Jake. Jake Golka, who's been on the show a few times, has helped us host and shared his opinion. He is now being interviewed by so many different people because he is a super fan. You can go check out his Instagram, as he's shared on the show before, so I don't think it's anything wrong to share it. He's being interviewed by local radio stations, both by CBC and Sonic radio station located here in Edmonton. If you get a chance to tune in, he is wearing the attire. He was always on CDTV, looking great, looking excited, ready to cheer his team on. And we just wanted to shout it out because he does such a great job. So props to you, Jake. Have fun at Game 4 and moving beyond, hopefully a few more.
So I think everything changed for the Oilers when they went in without Hyman. It was like last year going in without Kane, right? Having both Kane and Hyman, everyone had this big, we want Frederick. We want Frederick. And Kyle, maybe you're still listening. Maybe you moved on. He came from Boston. Everyone liked him. Hey, you know what? I'm cool if he's an extra third line guy. Not at the money. If they're going to re-sign him, if they're going to bring him in, man, I am not paying a dime over $2 million. And I know he wants more than that, but he is not worth that, in my opinion. The injuries have got to him. I feel like he's inconsistent. It's always been like that. Whereas Kane is consistent. Hyman is consistent. And if they're not bringing the scoring, if they're not bringing hitting, they're bringing something else. They're agitating. They're getting into the goalie's face. You have to bring something. And I think right now what's going to happen, and I'm just going to pull this up here. In order for the Oilers to go anywhere, I just want to show you guys this, okay? This man, Connor McDavid, is going to have to prove himself and carry his team. No more excuses. It's not one man can't do it. You have 4 games, maximum 4 games left. 4 games to give every single drop because I don't want to hear about we weren't good enough. You had all year to prepare. You need to figure it out. And right now, McDavid needs to go in and say to Chris Knobloch, this is what we need to do. You take leadership. It's yours. Because Oilers fans have been defending Connor McDavid not having a cup for a long time. 2 years running, Florida's good. You, with the world skill you have, come up with plays. Because I don't know if you saw in the rush, when he goes into the zone, they figured him out now, Pawel. They came in and they a couple times in 2 different games. They have just collided and gave a good old hip check, and down he goes. They're going to need to come up with something new. And a little bit more, and their power play, you can't have bad goaltending, and that's the other problem. Goaltending has been average to bad for the Oilers in the Stanley Cup Finals. So, hey, we were all after, a bunch of us were after Skinner early on, and then he started playing like a superstar. Then we're all for him. So guess what? We're now not all for him. And I'm just generalizing with myself in there. So you can't expect and say, well, what about him now? Okay, exactly. What about him now? He's not playing good enough to be a Stanley Cup goaltender. I've always said they do not have good enough goaltending to win on their own. They will have to outscore. And if your special teams are not performing, essentially, can I just say this, Pawel? It's a win or you're done. This next game, they need to tie this up. They will not come back with 3 straight wins if they lose this next game. There's no way. This team is too strong.
I know. I understand why people say it's a must-win, and I can agree to wholeheartedly. However, everyone thought they were done after Game 3 last season, we went all the way to Game 7. Well,
but they
made it interesting. They made it interesting, and I agree. So,
I'm not saying. So I guess that's my saying. I'm not saying they won't hit game 7.
I
I'm
think
just saying
Edmonton needs to play their game. You can't play Florida's game because you're not Florida. You are not Florida. And can I just say, Evan Rodriguez has been a great pickup for the team, along with Brad Marchand.
right.
Right now, if I were to vote, and again, you guys know that we do not vote, we just like to think we can, is both Marchand, Bennett, and because Bob is up there, but I would say Marchand and Bennett, it would be insane in the hockey world. They could be a Conn Smythe favorite. I'm just saying right now, they are having that much of an impact on the game. And if one of those two wins the Conn Smythe because they've won the Stanley Cup, because you can't give it to McDavid again, unfortunately, regardless of what he does, unless he goes nuclear.
No, I think you can.
Watch the hockey world get wild.
Yeah. Okay. So I will pick a Conn Smythe winner of either team. Okay. Whoever wins it. I know I'm not saying win or lose. I'm saying in the end, if it's someone from the Panthers, it will be Sam Bennett, number 1. Number 2, Sergei Bobrovsky. I know he hasn't been superstar, but he's clutch.
No.
He's been clutch in this moment. If it's on the other side, I say Draisaitl will be first, probably because of the goals, and he will come through clutch because his physical game has really gone up. And if not, and he goes supernova, maybe these next games is pulling out 3-4 points a game, and they come back to win the cup. But I do not think that McDavid this year could win it even in a loss without going supernova 5 points a game, essentially. Otherwise, it's going to be dry. That would be my thoughts.
You guys can let us know who you think is going to be that. But we are now going to get into a little bit of a rumble with the rant of the night.
Puckpedia brings you
Rant of the Night.
Calling all hockey fans, stay on top of your game with Puckpedia. It's the ultimate source for NHL salary cap information.
Okay, guys, I have to tell you, at this point in time, I am so tired. If you don't know the game of hockey, and know the game is not, I watched the Pee Wee play, I've played rec league, or I've gone out. Have you studied the game? I've shared this so many times before. Do you know how many coaching plays do you know? Do you know the names of those coaching plays? You say, no, I don't need to know those names. Yes, you do, because otherwise you don't understand hockey. And how about some of you? You're all upset because Corey Perry, remember during the playoffs, you were like, he's doing this, he's going to hurt somebody. Well, of course, he is doing that because it's a psych game. Watch the Stanley Cup. It is about psychology. They're getting in their heads. Watch Brad Marchand. Watch Sam Bennett. I'm Mr. Accidentally bump into the goalie. He's been doing it all playoffs. And talking about that, you guys are complaining about the refs. Why, when you're biased, do you always have a bias for your team, right? Because you want your team to win. Do you want to be taken seriously? Then start calling out your own team. I believe you admit what your team has done, and then you call out the other team. Quit calling out the other team and act like your team has done nothing. You look absolutely silly. And most of you typing in your mother's basement, you're saying all the things that you want to say. Well, that's good. You keep saying all the things you want to say, and you'll get more on follows. Less and less people will pay attention. Sometimes I go in and I answer some of you 0 followers and 5 followers because I give you the respect to say something, but I do become sarcastic with it. Why? Because I find it funny. But hey, if you actually get me to respond to you, you get a few other people to respond to you, I guess you did your job because it's called clickbait. And by the way, speaking of clickbait, my rant still stands. I am so tired of people faking their counts. Yes, this is called the double rant, but clickbait is stupid. I'm sick and tired of it. And Meta, get in there. Zuckerberg, do your job. Pencil drop.
Puckpedia brings you
Rant of the Night.
Calling all hockey fans, stay on top of your game with Puckpedia. It's the ultimate source for NHL salary cap information.
Nothing like a rant of the night to get the blood boiling and the eyebrows raised. So,
hey, can we talk a little bit about just before? I know I want to go into a little bit, and we'll share some just for a couple of minutes. Can we go back to Marner? Mitch
Sure.
Marner and Sam
Let's
Bennett.
talk about Mitch Marner. Yeah.
Mitch Marner and Sam Bennett. There's a lot of talk about potential places because they could become UFAs. We don't know. Truly, we don't know. There could be a lot of backdoor stuff that is super silent. Marner's not signing in Toronto. I think most people will tell you that. There was way too many things that happened. There was a three-way trade that actually was recently broken down by Elliot Friedman. You can go read more about it. I don't want to get into all that. But part of it was with the Vegas Golden Knights. Where there's smoke, there is fire. And right now it's about claiming the way. Some people think Pietrangelo will go on a mysterious long-term injury like Kane did last year so they can get Marner under and then be able to have Marner there for the entire year. I don't put it past them, but do not expect Mitch Marner to go to a non-contender. And I wonder if we're looking at a third team to clear out space that will take on some of that contract, some way, somehow. If they can let do his rights. What I'm hearing is that he will not he doesn't want to talk to anybody. So I don't think the rights thing is even going to be possible. So does a three-way deal happen where Vegas clears out that space? I know that there's been more talk even recently about the New York Islanders. Interesting. The Islanders. And a lot of that could go down to what happens in the draft. So
Okay.
any thoughts? Do you think things are going to get messy? Do you think he's going to get massively overpaid? Or do you think he's just going to find a new home for an average star price?
I think he's going to find a new home. There's a lot more factors in it. I think that relationship is strained, especially after they asked him to waive his no trade clause to go to Carolina for the the Rantanen trade, and I think that kind of soured things from what I was hearing reporting. And I really believe that he will go somewhere. Now, some of the teams that I've heard, I mean, a lot of teams will be interested. I think there will be 31 teams wanting Marner services because he is a great player, 100-point player, is a playmaker, can do a lot of effective things, and he can potentially get between, I would say, 12 and 13.5 million on the market. He can become the highest paid winger in the NHL. That's how good he can make it. You were going to say?
No, I saw two things. So first of all, I saw Nancy, Vegas Golden Knight fan. As soon as Vegas got a team, I see that you said that you bought Hockey for Dummies. Do you guys see that? And she read it from cover to cover so that she could get to understand the game. Nancy, just a heads up, feel free to send us an email to twoguyshockeytalk@gmail.com if you have any questions on hockey, or even if you want to set some stuff up. In fact, Nancy, let me just put this out there. If we would love next season to maybe get a chance to bring you on in the preseason in early September. As a Vegas Golden Knights fan, that would be incredible to share your experiences, what you've learned as being a new person to hockey. And then can I just say, I wanted to go to Jordan. So he goes, what do you do if they get a AAA team? Okay, Jordan, I'm not okay. What's he saying here? I'm trying to figure this
out. He's being sarcastic with Nancy about because she wrote a AA team, and he's right. What do you do when you get a AAA team? So he's clowning on the Vegas Golden Knights.
Oh, okay. Oh, and then I see he says Evan loves when players turtle.
Well, okay. Before we get ahead, so I know that there's a little bit of a banter, so we appreciate you guys tuning in and kind of sharing your thoughts. Remember to keep commenting, liking us, subscribe. We are here every Wednesday night, normally at 7 p.m., but in the last little bit, we've been a little bit all over the place because I've been traveling. It's been a little tough for me to get to places, but we appreciate all of our sponsors, all of our partners. And we got a website that's got articles that go up. We got quite a few writers. And if you're interested in writing, please reach out to us at twoguysandhockeytalk@gmail.com. We'd love to connect, and we'd love to have you write for us about your favorite team. So just remember to give us a follow. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a breaking news that's been reported by Kevin Weeks. As you know, he's pretty dialed into the NHL, and it sounds like Forsyth County has voted to approve the final documentation that would allow the Krause Group to formally propose an NHL expansion to Metro Atlanta. So it sounds like the NHL is going back to the Atlanta area with potentially a team there, right? This is going to be kind of one of the final hurdles before NHL expansion happens. So just so you know, we may get another 2 teams in the next little bit. And I'll be interested to see what that looks like, where they play, what their name is, and how that affects affects the whole league, especially with the CBA coming up.
Right.
Given Gary Bettman's presser. Now, I did want to mention one thing, Evan, before we get to your final thoughts about Rev's top 15. Is I know usually Gary Bettman does his pressers at the end of the year about everything happening in the NHL, but he had this interview with Biz Nasty about the tax-free state. And I know there's been a lot of dialogue about it because of the fact that he said, well, it's a ridiculous issue because when Florida was bad, nobody said anything. And all of a sudden now it's a problem because in the last few years, especially the last 6 years, a Tampa Bay team has been in there. Let me just clarify something. Just because you're bad doesn't mean the no free tax state doesn't help your team. It does. Players make that decision to go there. Plus, there's more to it than that. You look at Dallas, it's an attractive location. You look at Nashville, it's an attractive location. The reason why isn't because just of tax-free states, but because of less media pressure, less publicity, and there's an opportunity to be more competitive and win. And maybe you're an American kid who's playing hockey and you want to go there, right? I'm thinking about Quinn Hughes right now in Vancouver and how that team needs to make him happy. Otherwise, he's going maybe to play with his brothers, but maybe to a different place, right? So it is a factor. It wasn't a factor before because the teams weren't good. But that's not because the state thing. It was because they were mismanaged. And a lot of teams sometimes are mismanaged. And until they get good ownership with deep pockets, nothing happens. I wanted to know if you had any thoughts to add.
No, I think you said it very well. I'm in agreement with exactly what you're feeling. And I think it should be noted that his comment on that and people's thoughts, I don't think it matters as much as people think it matters for the winning.
Yes.
However, I do feel it gives the equal playing ground for places that are non-traditional hockey markets to still get players, especially American players, right? That don't want to be in the limelight. They like to stay in behind. But remember, Matthew Tkachuk loved the limelight, and he wanted to be down there. It's a great place to be. Now, of course, they were a winning team already. But can I say this? The salary cap era did not come in till 2006. So please remember, you're only talking about how many years history? 19 years here, where that's actually been the case. And we are seeing Dallas with a dominant team. You're seeing Vegas with a dominant teams and two of the Florida teams. And so it's more than just Florida that are being able to stay on top. I think what bothers me more is that the tax dollar, they don't give a crap, it seems, between the Canadian teams and the American teams. And yet it's the Canadian dollars that are coming from those teams that are propping 60% of the league. That bothers me. I think they need to find a way. They're almost at record levels on the US exchange as they were when teams like the Edmonton Oilers needed to be bailed out back in the day, and they had this, what they called, I can't remember the terminology, some of you might, where it was like a Canadian luxury tax or something like that to help supplement. And it is unfair. Just because the Canadian teams financially are doing good doesn't mean that they should be paying 40% more than every other team. And so that does affect you. And the Canadian taxes, including, this is for Montreal to keep things going, this is hard. They are the heaviest tax. So what would be 50% in most places is now like 60%. So it is tough. It is tough.
And before we get to your Revs top 15, we did talk about it earlier. I did make a faux pas about Jonathan Toews versus Devon Toews. Easily confused, not related in any sense. But you were hearing some rumblings about him potentially returning as a third line center somewhere. So you want to give us some quick thoughts on what you're hearing?
Yeah. So when we were talking about, so we know that there's a push in that the Hats, they're wanting to put their hats in there with the Colorado Avalanche, have a big desire. I'm not hearing Dallas like some people think that because they're a contender. I'm not hearing the Edmonton Oilers, which I think that they should as a third or a fourth line center for them, even if he is slower. But we are hearing that there is interest in Toronto. There is interest in Winnipeg specifically. Obviously, he's going to go to a contender. And then you definitely have Florida. But could he decide to go just want to play some more with Patrick Kane? So keep your ears open around that. This will be a very interesting thing to see what really happens from here.
Well, we love speculating and we love hearing. So if you guys have any information, feel free to share it to us privately or on our X/Twitter feed at REV or Hoggy2. And now we've got our Revs Top 15.
Revs Top 15.
Brought to you by the electronic hard rock band Penny Billionaires. Look for them wherever you find your music.
Well, we haven't got to advertise for a while, actually, for Penny Billionaires, guys. That is our intro and our outro song that you guys actually hear. So I want to give it out there. They're hard rock music, incredible band. A lot of people, they are an unknown commodity, incredible music. So, all right, Jordan, but no Kings, Vegas, Oilers, or Florida, maybe even Tampa. Well, again, the Vegas, I haven't heard anything. The Kings, yes, I did hear that they may have interest. I think it matters because the Kings, and we didn't mention this, are going after Marner. So that's a big job. All right, so let's get into this. I'm going to quickly place it up here and pull it up here. My top 15, just been on Dump and Chase. I have Matthew Misa at number 1, Matthew Schaefer at number 2, James Higgins at 3, Porter Martone at 4, Caleb Denoye at 5, Anton Frundell, who I think will be another Anton Lundell. 7, Victor Eklund. 8, Roger McQueen. Yes, I'm taking a chance. Carter Bear, have him up at 9. Cole Rushing way up at 10. Jackson Smith at 11. Jake O'Brien, I have him at 12. I can't put him up. Brady Martin, I have at 13. Malcolm Spence at 14. And Justin Carbonell, who I pushed ahead now. So that is my top 15. I'll leave it up there right now for a moment. I do want to just say some people are really big on, for example, guys like Deshaun Atchison. I have him just slightly behind. I do have guys like Ryabkin. I have him at 27. I think somebody's going to get an early pick and a later pick with Ryabkin. Take a chance. Like Fiddler out of the Oil Kings, I do have him at 28. If he could get more offense, he could be in the top 15. And then Bill's on it. He's kind of the one that I'm really interested in what will go. But Cole Reshney, I think, will be a much better player than people are actually expecting. Can I just say this? So I was on the Dump and Chase show with several media and draft rankings agencies. We just did it. It will be coming out, I believe, in about a week or so before the draft, done by Dylan Robidaud out of actually Calgary area where he's from. Now, interesting, I asked the question, and this is really big to me because why, after only 17 games essentially, okay, he plays in the season, couple Canada games, he gets injured, he starts the season very low. So he was anywhere from 4 to 7 or even 8 in most draft rankings. And because of that small sample size, I know he had a good Ivan Helenka and stuff, but remember, he had all those good moments Matthew Schaefer did, and yet he still came into the season. Now, I get it. James Higgins fell. He didn't score like people thought, more than a point a game, essentially. Didn't get the goals they thought he would get. I have had a side interview with one of their associate coaches who tells me he is not weak as a player. He may look less than a strong guy digging for the puck, but he tells me he's like Mario Lemieux. I talk about that a little bit on the broadcast. I did have guys like Brock Otten challenge some of these thoughts when he was in there, one of the scouts for prospect writing. There was a bunch of people that had Schaefer. Schaefer was the consensus even in that group. I think there was 8 of us, consensus still in there. But there was 4 of us that have Misa. I've had Misa since the tournament started. So right after Christmas, Misa has been there. He's an exceptional player, and I don't know how you don't go there. And now Porter Martone, I was a little concerned of what I saw out of him with some of the opportunities during the World Juniors. But here's the truth. With the World Juniors, that whole team was a mess, and the coaching was terrible with it. So I'm just writing off the World Juniors this year. I don't even feel it's fair, including Matthew Schaefer. If you're not going to include some of those other guys, then you should say Gavin McKenna only got 1 point. Then if you're going to put up, do you guys see the arguments that are back and forth? Now, Pavel's going to join in just a moment here because we're going to talk about mock and what could potentially happen here. But anyway, when it comes to Caleb Desnoyers, he is exceptionally well. He got injured end of year, had some major wrist issues. He was playing banged up in the Memorial Cup. During the combine, he held back. So a few of the guys that were on the Dump and Chase show, they were actually at the combine. They were doing interviews with a lot of the guys, found out a lot of information, which was great to rub shoulders. So thanks again, Dylan, for letting me jump on your show. I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen. I think, again, I'm just giving you, Mal, my first full release. I will get it posted up in the next couple of weeks before draft day. And then we will go live with a draft show for our Revs Top 15. And we will stay for the whole draft right up till my 15 top are picked. So last year, I think it was 24 guys in before we actually came off. You were on most of the show, Pawel. This year, Jordan's going to be joining me, and I think Jordan's on for the whole show. And Jordan will argue. Believe me, he will argue, and we're going to have fun. This is the great thing that I love about draft is we can have all our takes and all the different information feel different. And that's what makes it really fun to me. So we're going to talk through it. We're going to show the live draft. We can't have sound playing, but we can actually show you a video live. And we're working on some different scouts and media and draft agencies being able to come on for little 5-10 minute segments. And Pawel will be with me as well during that period of time. So you'll get a full fit. I'll explain all the drafts during that period of time. But New York Islanders are stepping up. I don't think Schaefer should go number one. I think it's too high of a risk. And I'm going to call a Patrick Steffen possibility here. The last guy to not have a lot. We talked about that last week. I think Misa is the best player, hands down. I think Schaefer has a bust or boom. And then I do want to say James Hagan. So talking to and interviewing with the associate coach on a side interview I was able to do off the record. I think I might have accidentally shared his name on the Dump and Chase. So if you want to find out, I do apologize to the coach. I wasn't supposed to. I think I wanted them to know because they were saying he was not tough, but he referenced that he's like Lemieux. Lemieux looked like he wasn't tough going into those corners. Now, does the Long Island guy go to Long Island? So what's your thoughts here? Let's take about 2-3 minutes before we go and get ready to wrap. What's your thoughts here on what's going to happen actually for real come the draft? What do you see as priorities?
So to be honest with this question, I've done a little bit of digging myself. And what is it that the Islanders need the most right now? What did they lack? Because it seems like they're defensively pretty solid. In goaltender, they're set. Up front, they could use a little bit more scoring. They need goals. Who is that player that's going to come in and make that immediate impact that could put up 15 to 25 goals, let's say, right? Is that Schaefer? Is that Misa? That's what I think the new GM is going to look at in the Long Island and say, this is what we need. I still believe that it's going to be between Schaefer and Misa. It's not like a Taylor Hall, Tyler Seguin kind of situation, but I really believe that they're going to try to go for one of these guys, because what did Lou like? He likes tall guys, strong guys. He wants guys that commit to the system. I'm sure Patrick Waugh is going to have an influence, so he's probably going to look at what it is that we need, because they need someone to play with either Barzal or Bo Horvat, right? Those guys need someone who potentially could be a playmaker and can put the puck in the net, because we know Horvat can put up to 30 goals, right? Yeah. We know Barzal can be dynamic offensively. He just really hasn't found his footing yet to the best of his abilities that I think we as fans want to see, including Islander fans. So that's kind of what I see. And that, sorry, can you hear me?
Revs Top 15.
Brought to you by the electronic hard rock band Penny Billionaires. Look for them wherever you find your music.
Hagan or Misa, who do you see?
Hagan or Misa would be hard to kind of dictate.
You there with me?
Yeah, sorry, my Wi-Fi is a little bit choppy here.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry about that.
Are
My
you
Wi-Fi is
hearing?
a little spotty here on the end. Yes, I hear it.
Hello? Hello? Am I cutting out or are you cutting out?
I think it's me cutting out.
I see freezing. It might be on my end. I think I might.
I think I'm still on here, but I don't know what's going on here. But
Well, I might
we're
be
getting
mine too. I'm not sure. Well, what a way to end the show. It looks like um, uh, I don't think it's you, buddy. I think it might be me, and it might be Calgary doing it. They're mad. They saw my Oilers flag on my truck, and they're holding it against me.
I hear you a little bit, so I hope that you're able to kind of get me in clearly. So I'm sorry that you
That's fair.
tell us or whoever it is in
We were
Calgary that's
going
cutting off your.
to do hockey history, but because we got all the delay problems and all this stuff happening on, I wasn't sure if I was still going to do it. Hang on here. Let's just see if I can actually pull him.
It seems like we've lost Evan for just a little bit, so we'll see if he can come back in the next little bit. If not, as always, guys, remember we are here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Tonight is a special exception due to a bit of our travel, but we are on Facebook, on YouTube/X. You can find me at hockey_2. I'd love to give you a follow. Talk hockey. Evan is at REV Rev. We are on Instagram. We apologize about our choppy audio. I apologize, Nancy. Don't know what's going on here. I feel like I was coming in clearly here, but clearly being in rural Portland wouldn't be the best, but it seems it was the other way around for Mr. Evan. He was going to get through something for hockey history. We'll save that for next week. There's a lot, and I think we're going to finish up our show. But thanks again, everyone. Thanks again to all of our sponsors. We love hearing from you guys. JR Web Design, and of course Penny Billionaires with that great intro. So I know Evan may not be able to tune in anymore, but you guys can like, share, follow, give us a like on our Facebook page. We appreciate it, and we will probably see you next time. Because as always, in the meantime and in between time, keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe. Cheers.